Hey guys, welcome back to PHT TV. Last couple weeks we have been unboxing our subwoofers. We unboxed the PB2000 Pro and disassembled it. We unboxed the SPL150 and disassembled it. The PB2000 Pro is back together. The SPL150 is still in pieces. And then in addition to those two, I do have the R112SW below me. So I have a fully functional assembled unit. I have a fully functional disassembled unit and a non-functional R112SW. So basically, I'm gonna take you all the way from beginning to end, every step of the way to completely diagnose what is going on with your subwoofer if you are having some complications. So, and I'm gonna grab my second camera. First off, you wanna check your power. You wanna make sure everything has power 9 times out of 10 in troubleshooting. If something's not working, the power supply is bad, it's not plugged in, something like that. So, first off, we do have power to our surge protector. This is a Surgex SA1810. So we do have power coming from our power source into the amp here. So now let's check that this is functional. I would be really disappointed if it wasn't because this is a brand new unit. So we do have power to our SVS PB2000 Pro. So next test I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn it off, wait till it's completely powered down, plug in my subwoofer to my LFE port, then turn it back on. And we're gonna do what's called the buzz test. So in the buzz test, basically, if you have power, if your unit is completely functional, then you will hear a buzz. We hear a buzz. So we know that the cable is good. We know that the source is my fingertip being the source. We know that our source is good. Now, if we were not getting signal, the first thing that I'd wanna do is I'd power it down, take this off, and try a different cable. Our subwoofer cable doesn't tend to go bad too often, but if the unit got kicked, if you tripped over a cable or something to that effect, it could have made that cable go bad. So now that we have a new cable, do our touch test. And we know that our new cable is functional. So that issue would have been solved if we had a bad cable. All right, so buzz test complete. Next, let's move on to our Klipsch R112SW. All right, so same thing here. We have our Klipsch R112SW. And this is the unit that has been giving me troubles. So what we're gonna do is, first off, we do have our power supply. We are plugged in here to our power source, is the Surgex again. Plugged into this system, we're gonna power it on and make sure that our light is on the front of the unit. We do have a LED that is on. So we do have power coming from the Surgex to the amp, so we're good to go there. I'm gonna kill it. Now, we have also tested both of these cables so that we know that both of these cables are good. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of one of them. We're gonna take our subwoofer cable, plug it into the LFE port. You wanna make sure that your gain is up, not on minimum. Now we're gonna take the switch and flip it to the on mode. And let's try our buzz test. We are getting nothing, no sound when I touch this unit when the gain is all the way up. We have, our unit is on, our gain is on. That should be making a sound. And we are not. So let's go ahead and flip it on and we'll move over to the next steps in troubleshooting. So we know our cable's good. We know our source is good. We know that the unit was turned on. We know that the gain was all the way up. There's a couple more things that it could be. It could be the amp, it could be the driver, it could just be a fuse. So the first thing that I'm gonna do here is I'm going to check the fuse. On the Klipsch directly to the left of the power supply, there's gonna be your little fuse here. And after inspecting the fuse, it does seem to be still intact, doesn't appear to be blown. Both of the tests that we can do next can actually be done from the back side. So let's flip this unit around and we are going to pull out the amp. Now these are wood screws holding this in, so I recommend using a Phillips head screwdriver as opposed to a drill. If you do end up using a drill, I recommend putting on a fairly low torque setting. This one has been in here for quite a while. Some of them will almost just come right out. Some of them you'll need to give them a little incentive to come out, but once you do have a couple sets of wires. You have the first two, which are going to be your power, your positive and your negative for your driver assembly there. So you can see those go straight back to the driver. This extra thin wire here, it's going to be a positive and negative as well, but it is for the LED on the front. So you can just pull that off, set it off to the side. Now we're going to take a closer look at the spade clamps for the woofer itself, and these are going to be locking spade clamps. So what you might need to do is press on the lock itself. Sometimes you can get these with fingers and sometimes you can't, but there is a locking mechanism. There's a release here on this guy here, which releases it from this hole in the spade. Sometimes you can get them with your fingers, sometimes you can't. Now the positive and the negative are going to be different sizes, so when you go to reassemble, you don't have to worry about putting it on the wrong one, because the negative will not fit on the positive and the positive will feel loose on the negative, so you're good to go there. Now that we have our amp out, we're going to do what's called the 9-volt battery test. So you're going to want to pull these back a little bit to expose the metal, and you'll grab your 9-volt battery, and if you listen here, you'll be able to hear it kick when you do this. Now if you flip it, it'll work the same as well. You're just reversing the polarity. So you don't need to worry about whether or not you're doing it correctly, as long as you have one prong on each one. So by doing this test, we know that our driver is good. Now, the reason that I left the SPL 150 disassembled is in case the driver was bad, I wanted to show you what it looked like here as well. So here is what your 9-volt battery test looks like if you are doing it outside of the box. So here we have our connections to our woofer on our SPL 120 or SPL 150. Take your terminals. As you can see, it retracts. Now, like I said, all you're doing, if you flip it around, if you put the negative on the negative and the positive on the positive, it's going to expand. If you reverse the polarity, it's going to retract. So basically we could tell by this 9-volt battery test that our drivers are good and the issue is going to be the amp. That's pretty much it. So we need a new plate amp for the R112SW and we would be good to go. All right, so just a quick checklist of what we have covered today. First thing you're gonna wanna check is always gonna be your power source. Make sure that your unit is plugged in. Make sure that that surge protector switch didn't get kicked off. Make sure that it is getting power. That is first and foremost gonna be the #1 issue that we see. Next, you're going to want to check to make sure that your unit is powered on. If the power source is good, awesome. Make sure your subwoofer is powered on as well, because that switch can get flicked. Next, we're going to want to check our subwoofer cable. Our subwoofer cable doesn't tend to go bad too often, but if the unit got kicked, if you tripped over a cable or something to that effect, it could have made that cable go bad. Could have broken a connection. So you can check that by checking a different cable or checking your existing cable on a different unit. Make sure that your fuse is good in your amp. If your fuse looks okay, then you're going to want to start pulling components out. You can either pull out the amp or the driver to do that 9-volt battery test. Either way is going to be okay. I pulled out the amp and I touched the 9-volt battery onto the driver. The driver was functional, which told me that in this particular case, the issue is going to be with the amp. If the 9-volt battery test failed and the unit did not retract and expand from the 9-volt battery, then the issue would have been with the driver. So that about takes you from beginning to end every troubleshooting step of every subwoofer that you may have in your house. So I know we have our SVS, we have our Klipsch in front of us, but this covers pretty much every brand, every make, powered subwoofer that you may have at your house. If you're gonna have pro units, if you're gonna have passive units, these troubleshooting steps may be a little bit different. But for most of us in our regular standard home theaters, this will help you resolve any issues that you may have. Thank you guys for watching. I think that covers everything. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Otherwise, we'll see you again next week for another episode of PHT TV. Hey guys, welcome back to PHT TV. We are going to do something a bit, that is dirty. Let's make it pretty first. Hey guys, welcome back to PHT.